My name is Ibrahim Traoré. I am a man like you, born in this land of Burkina Faso, raised under the same sun that shines on us all. Today I want to share a story with you. It's not a story of power or titles, it's a story about respect, about dignity, about what it means to be human. It happened on a flight in seat 2A, on a plane bound for our capital, Ouagadougou. Let me tell you what happened, in simple words so we can all learn together. It was a busy afternoon at the airport. People were everywhere, rushing with their bags, some laughing, some tired, some arguing. Flights were coming and going, voices filled the air, and the noise of wheels rolling on the floor mixed with the hum of announcements. I was there, just a man in a plain black kaftan. My shoes were clean but simple. My bag was small, just enough for what I needed. I didn't wear a suit or a watch. I didn't carry a big briefcase or a laptop. I sat quietly in the first-class lounge, holding my ticket for Flight 227 to West Africa. In the lounge, people sipped drinks, scrolled on their phones, or talked loudly about business. I said nothing. I watched. I listened. A few people looked at me, then looked again. A black man, alone, in simple clothes, sitting in the first-class lounge. They wondered. I could tell. Who is he? Why is he here? He doesn't look rich. He doesn't look like a businessman. But I sat there, peaceful, waiting for my flight, like everyone else. In the lounge, people sipped drinks, scrolled on their phones, or talked loudly about business. I said nothing. I watched. I listened. A few people looked at me, then looked again. A black man, alone, in simple clothes, sitting in the first-class lounge. They wondered. I could tell. Who is he? Why is he here? He doesn't look rich. He doesn't look like a businessman. But I sat there, peaceful, waiting for my flight, like everyone else. Then it was my turn. I stepped forward and handed her my ticket. Her smile disappeared. She looked at my face, then at my clothes. Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me, sir," she said, putting her arm in front of me. "You must be lost. This lane is for first class." I stayed calm. I handed her my ticket again. "This is my ticket," I said softly. She took it, stared at it, and her face tightened. "Seat 2A," she read, almost to herself. "This must be a mistake." She looked me up and down, her eyes full of doubt. "Sir, this flight is not for someone of your color. You can't sit here." People nearby turned to look. A young woman behind me gasped. A man in a business suit frowned. Some pulled out their phones, starting to record. Clara's voice grew louder. I said, "This flight is not for someone like you. You must have booked economy by mistake. Maybe someone used your card." I stayed still. My heart was steady. "I bought a first-class ticket," I said. "That's my seat 2A." She laughed, but it wasn't a kind laugh. "You can't even pronounce the name of this airline, and you want to sit in first class." The crowd grew restless. People whispered. More phones were raised. A younger attendant, a man with glasses, walked over. "Is everything all right?" he asked. Clara leaned toward him. "This guy's trying to force his way into first class with a fake ticket," she whispered, loud enough for me to hear. The young man took my ticket and scanned it with a small device. A green checkmark appeared with a soft beep. "It's valid," he said quietly. Clara's face twisted. "It doesn't matter," she snapped. "Look at him. Do you really think he belongs in seat 2A? I stepped aside to let a mother with a baby pass through. Then I turned back to Clara. "I'm not here for drama," I said. "I just want to take my seat." The young attendant looked worried. "Clara, maybe we should just... You want to lose your job over this?" She cut him off. Her voice was sharp like a blade. I sighed. I stepped forward. "I will take my seat now," I said. My voice was calm but firm. Clara stood frozen. She didn't know what to do. Her authority was slipping away in front of everyone. Finally, she stepped aside, but as I passed, she hissed, "Don't say I didn't warn you. We'll see how long you last in that seat." I walked into the plane. The first-class cabin was cool and quiet. It smelled of leather seats and soft cologne. Seat 2A was by the window. I placed my bag in the overhead bin and sat down. From my pocket I took a small notebook and a pen. I began to write. Not a word of anger, not a frown, not even a sigh. Clara entered the cabin. She watched me for a moment, then turned to serve drinks to the other passengers, ignoring me. 3 rows away, a man in a suit adjusted his tie and glanced at me. His name, I later learned, was François Delacour, a French CEO. He said nothing, but I could feel his eyes on me. A soft chime sounded. Ladies and gentlemen, we are preparing for takeoff. Please fasten your seatbelts. I closed my notebook and looked out the window. The engines roared and the plane lifted into the sky. Below, the world disappeared, but inside this plane a storm was just beginning. High above the clouds, the cabin was calm, but there was tension in the air. I sat in seat 2A, my seatbelt fastened. I didn't ask for champagne or stretch my legs like others. I looked out the window, my heart quiet, my mind clear. I've seen many things in my life. Storms on the ground, storms in the hearts of people. This was just another one. Clara moved through the cabin, offering drinks and snacks. Her smile was bright for everyone except me. When she reached seat 2B, the woman next to me, an older French lady with pearl earrings, asked for green tea. Clara nodded. Of course, ma'am. Then she turned to me, her voice flat. What do you want to drink? Just water, please, I said gently. She rolled her eyes. Sparkling or still? Pick one. Still water is fine, I said. She brought the bottle and dropped it on my tray table. It nearly fell over. No napkin, no smile, no here you go. I picked it up, fixed the cap, and took a sip. I stayed calm. François, the CEO, noticed. His face showed he didn't like what he saw. Something about me, about the way I carried myself, made him curious. I didn't speak much, but I didn't need to. My silence was enough. Clara came by again, handing out hot towels. She skipped my seat entirely. The woman in 2B whispered to herself, "Why does she keep ignoring him? He's not causing trouble." A man in 3C leaned toward his wife. "Maybe she thinks he doesn't belong here." In the economy cabin, I could hear laughter and the cries of babies. The plane rocked gently with light turbulence. Back in first class, something was about to happen. The young attendant who had scanned my ticket approached Clara at the front of the cabin. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. She sighed. "What now?" He leaned closer. "You need to stop treating that man like he's invisible. People are noticing. They're filming." Clara's eyes flashed. "Let them film. Let the whole world see. That seat doesn't belong to people like him. He bought it, fine, but he doesn't belong here. He knows it. I know it." The young attendant looked alarmed. "You're crossing a line." "No, he crossed the line," Clara said. "People like him should know their place. They want to act like kings and sit where they don't belong. Let them face the pressure." Suddenly, the plane shook harder. A sharp bump made passengers grip their armrests. Clara walked back to the cabin, checking seatbelts. When she reached me, she stopped. "You better buckle up tight," she said with a smirk. "Wouldn't want you flying out of your seat." "Thank you for the reminder," I said calmly. Her face hardened. She wasn't expecting my calm. She moved on. When the turbulence passed, lunch was served. Fancy trays were placed before the passengers. Clara dropped a tray in front of me. "Here, hope this meets your standards." I nodded, "Thank you." François had seen enough. He leaned toward Clara. "Excuse me," he said quietly, "but why are you treating that man with such disrespect?" Clara's face turned red. "Sir, please mind your business." François didn't back down. "I am. This is my business. I paid for peace, not to watch you insult a paying passenger." Other passengers nodded. Someone clapped once. Clara turned and stormed to the galley. Inside she paced, muttering, "How dare they defend him? Who does he think he is?" In seat 2A, I closed my eyes and breathed slowly. I am used to storms, both in the sky and on the ground. This one was different. It wasn't just about color. It was about dignity. It was about patience being tested. I reached into my pocket and touched a small folded cloth, the emblem of Burkina Faso. I didn't wear it that day. I didn't need to. It was in my heart. The intercom sounded. Cabin crew prepare for arrival. 30 minutes to landing. Passengers sat up, cleared trays and zipped bags. Clara returned to first class one last time. She stood near my seat, arms folded. "I hope next time you choose the right cabin," she said coldly. "You're lucky we didn't throw you out before takeoff." I looked up. My voice was steady. Sometimes the seat we choose is not about money. It's about what we represent. I will keep choosing this seat, not for comfort, but for what must change. My words hit her. She didn't fully understand them, but they made her feel small. The plane began to descend. The clouds parted, and the lights of Ouagadougou sparkled below. The wheels touched down with a gentle bounce. The cabin lights turned on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ouagadougou. Please remain seated until the aircraft comes to a complete stop. Passengers clapped lightly. Some stretched, some yawned. But in first class, all eyes were on me. Clara wasn't done. As people unfastened their belts, she walked up to me again. Her voice was low, like poison. "I wish you never entered this flight," she said. She leaned closer, whispering so only I could hear. "You smell like someone who hasn't taken a bath for a month. You think sitting in first class makes you clean. It doesn't. It just makes this cabin stink." I blinked once. My eyes met hers, calm and strong. I said nothing. The woman in 2B, the French lady, saw Clara leaning in. She couldn't hear everything, but she saw Clara's face. "That's enough," she said firmly. Clara turned. "Stay out of this." "No, I won't," the woman said. "You're out of control. You've gone too far." Clara laughed nervously. "You think he belongs here? Look at him." Francois stood up. "Clara," he said, his voice steady, "you have embarrassed yourself. You have embarrassed this airline. You have embarrassed all of us." Clara froze. "He has done nothing wrong," Francois continued. "He paid for this seat, behaved with grace, and showed more dignity than you could ever understand. You may not know who he is, but I can tell he is a man of great worth." Clara's face burned with anger and shame. "I did what I thought was right. We have standards here." "No," Francois said sharply. "You have prejudice, that's what you have." Passengers gathered near first class. Some had heard parts of the argument. Others had seen it all. Many were still recording. The cabin door opened and a breeze came in. Airport staff waited below with steps to the ground. But something was different. On the tarmac, a black car with dark windows was parked. 5 soldiers in uniform stood at attention. A long red carpet was rolled out beside the steps. Passengers leaned toward the windows. "Is there a celebrity on this flight?" someone asked. "Maybe a royal family member," another said. Clara looked confused. "We didn't get any VIP alert." The young attendant walked up to her, holding his phone. "Clara, you need to see this," he said. She grabbed the phone and looked at the screen. Her face dropped. It was a photo of me, not in an airplane but in a military uniform, standing before thousands of people. Flags waved behind me. Soldiers saluted. The title read, "President Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso." Clara's hand shook. She looked up, searching for me. I was standing, lifting my bag from the overhead bin. "No, this can't be," she whispered. I walked toward the exit. "Wait," she called, her voice soft now. "Sir." I stopped and turned. Her lips trembled. "I didn't know, I didn't mean to." I looked at her, my eyes gentle but firm. "Would it have made a difference if you had known?" She opened her mouth, but no words came. I spoke again. "Respect is not a gift for the powerful. It is a duty to every human being." Then I turned and walked out. The sun outside was bright. The soldiers saluted sharply. One opened the car door. I didn't enter right away. I turned and looked up at the plane. Inside, passengers watched through the windows. Some had tears in their eyes. Others shook their heads in shame. Francois stepped out and caught up with me. "Mr. President," he said, his voice humble, "please forgive us. I had no idea. You carry yourself with such humility. It is admirable." I smiled gently. Sometimes we must walk low to see how deep people's hearts are. We shook hands. Back in the cabin, Clara sat in an empty seat. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. The young attendant stood beside her. "You didn't just insult a president," he said softly. "You insulted all of us who look like him." The captain came out of the cockpit. "Prepare a written report," he told Clara, "and expect to be questioned." Clara buried her face in her hands. Outside, cameras flashed. The red carpet rolled on. I entered the black car, not with pride but with purpose. I had flown as a passenger, but I landed as a lesson. The news spread like fire. Before the plane was even unloaded, videos were online. People saw Clara shouting, saw me sitting calmly, saw Francois defending me. When the truth came out that I was the president of Burkina Faso, the internet exploded. People were angry, shocked, inspired. Many were ashamed. Inside the airport, staff scrambled. Security officers stood straight. Workers whispered, "Did you hear? The president was on our flight." And Clara insulted him. Clara stood in a small office near the jet bridge. Her hands were cold, her face pale. The airline manager paced in front of her. "Do you realize what you've done?" he asked. "I didn't know," she whispered. "That's not the point," he said. "It's not about who he is, it's about what you said. This flight is not for the person of your color. You smell like someone who hasn't bathed in a month." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I was just doing my job," she said weakly. "No," the manager said. "You were abusing your position, and you've done it before." Clara gasped. "What do you mean? You think we haven't gotten complaints? You think this is the first time?" She froze. Outside, I sat in my car. The airport director stood beside me, sweating. "Mr. President, we are deeply sorry. If we had known," I raised my hand. "That's the problem. You only care when you know." He fell silent. I continued. "I flew today as a simple man. I wanted to feel what the people feel. And now I know. That woman didn't insult just me. She insulted millions of Africans, poor and rich. She showed us how deep racism still lives in some hearts." The director nodded. "She has been removed from duty." I said nothing. My silence spoke louder than anger. A reporter rushed forward. "Mr. President, will you press charges?" "No," I said. "I don't need to jail anyone to make a point. The whole world has seen what happened. Let that be enough." Back inside, Clara sat alone. Her uniform felt heavy, like a costume. Her phone buzzed with messages. Strangers, friends, even her mother. "I raised you better than this. I am disappointed." Clara dropped the phone. She wanted to scream, to run, but she had to face it. That evening, I stood at a press conference outside the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. I wore my military jacket, the flag of Burkina Faso pinned to my chest. Cameras flashed. Microphones pointed. I spoke slowly, clearly, for the world to hear. This morning, I boarded a plane as a regular passenger. I didn't wear a title. I didn't carry an entourage. I didn't need people to know my name. But what I received was more than poor service. It was hate, disrespect, shame. Not for me, but for those who think power only wears a suit. For those who believe skin color decides status. I paused. I want the world to understand. No human is above another. You don't need to be a president to be treated with respect. You only need to be a person. The crowd clapped. Some shouted, "Yes." Others wiped tears from their eyes. I raised my hand. "I forgive her," I said. Gasps filled the air. "Yes, I forgive her. Not because I'm weak, but because the lesson has been delivered. She has seen the consequences of her actions. Now she must choose to grow or remain small." I ended with a final line. "True power is not in the title you carry. It is in how you treat others." That night, the story spread across Africa, Europe, the world. People shared it in schools, homes, offices. Students talked about it in class. Teachers used it as a lesson. Judge no one by their appearance. Everyone deserves respect. You never know who someone is. Clara watched my speech from her room. Her eyes were red, her face tired. She couldn't sleep or eat. The guilt was heavy. But my words, "I forgive her," broke her. She sat down and wrote a letter by hand. No cameras, no tricks, just her heart. "Dear President Ibrahim Traoré, I am sorry. Not because you are a president, but because you are a human being. And I failed to treat you as one. I was blind with pride, poisoned by ignorance. You showed me a strength I've never seen. You had every right to humiliate me, yet you forgave me. I will never forget this lesson. I pray I can prove I've changed." Clara. She sent the letter. She didn't know if I would read it, but she hoped. At the presidential palace, the sun poured through my window. Clara's letter lay on my desk. I read it again. Her words were simple, honest, no excuses. Just regret and a promise to grow. I folded it and placed it in a drawer. My assistant entered with a file. "Mr. President, we've received hundreds of letters. Support from citizens, apologies from airline staff, even artwork from children. The people are touched, sir." I nodded. I didn't plan for this to happen. I only wanted peace that day. "I know, sir," he said, "but your silence spoke louder than 1,000 speeches." I walked to the window. "It's not enough to forgive," I said. "We must educate. What happened that day is a mirror. It shows what still exists in many hearts. I turn to him. Prepare a national campaign. Call it the Dignity Project. Teach respect in schools. Train workers in customer service. Promote kindness at all levels. Let this story be more than news. Let it be change. He smiled. Yes, Mr. President. In France, Clara didn't return to work. She was suspended without pay while the airline investigated. But she didn't sit still. Every day she volunteered at a shelter for immigrants and refugees. She listened to their stories, served food, cleaned bathrooms, folded sheets. She began to see people differently. One morning she noticed a little African girl sitting alone, hugging a torn teddy bear. Clara sat beside her. "What's your name?" she asked softly. "Aminata," the girl whispered. "That's a beautiful name," Clara said, smiling. "People at school call me dirty," Aminata said. Clara's heart broke. "They are wrong," she said. "You are not dirty. You are beautiful, just like your name." That night, Clara cried again, not from shame, but from understanding. Words could hurt for years, even small hearts. She wrote to me again. "Dear Mr. President, I don't expect a reply, but I'm changing. Not because I was caught, but because I was wrong. Every day, I meet people who remind me of you. Quiet, gentle, full of worth. I see them now, truly see them. Thank you for your silence." It shouted loud enough to wake me up. Clara. Months later, I visited a university in Ghana to speak on leadership and character. The auditorium was full of students, cameras, journalists. I walked onto the stage in simple clothes. The hall went silent. "My story is not special," I began. "Millions face disrespect every day. Not because they've done wrong, but because someone decided they weren't good enough. I was called dirty, told I didn't belong, laughed at, not as a president, but as a man with dark skin. I stayed silent, not because I couldn't speak, but because I wanted to listen." The students leaned forward. "Listen," I said, "to the pain of others, to your own heart, to the voice that says everyone deserves respect." I ended with a quote, written on the screen behind me. "If your power makes others feel small, it is not power." Applause thundered. That quote was later painted on school walls, printed on shirts, shared in airports. If your power makes others feel small, it is not power, it is weakness. Years later, people looked back on that flight as the day the world paused to reflect. The day a simple man in seat 2A taught a lesson about dignity. The day a proud woman broke and rebuilt her heart. The day silence roared louder than hate. My brothers and sisters, let us learn from this. Treat everyone with respect, not because of their title, but because they are human. Let us build a world where no one is judged by their clothes, their skin, or their seat. Let us choose dignity, always. And to you watching this story, if it touched your heart, share it. Tell your friends, spread the message, hit the subscribe button, like, and turn on the notification bell so you can hear more stories that remind us what it means to be human. Thank you.